Our debt burden. What are you planning to do with our debt burden? Or do you even believe we have a debt burden?
Oh dear, oh dear. How can we not believe we have a debt burden?
Because there are some who believe that if I want to, I don't have money, I don't have the option of stealing, and I want to build a house at my age, I've got to go to the bank, borrow a huge loan, build a house, then start paying for over the next 35 years or longer. My wife could argue that's such a huge debt burden on us, but she still accommodation. I'm not saying this is the current situation at mine, but I'm giving an example.
No, it's the current situation this country is in. And now we are, do you know we are actually taking loans to pay loans? Did you know that?
It seems as if every Ugandan lives that way.
No, I don't know.
At least the Ugandans I know.
Why aren't the fish is rotting from the head? Because the government is taking a loan to pay the loan they took to build the Entebbe Expressway. It was in the newspapers recently. You saw it. So now when you get to a
The
point...
last time I checked, it was supposed to be toll.
It was what?
Supposed to be a toll road.
Which they haven't implemented for whatever reasons. I'm told there is actually no law that, stipulates for that. So the point is, and I've said this before, if your family was run with the same carelessness economically that this country is run, you would be in prison rotting there. I can tell you that for sure. Because I have not seen such careless expenditure, such reckless fiscal policy. I think Museveni tried to experiment on a scenario. Maybe he thinks if he goes and his family are in charge of all these things, the rest of us can go and hang.
You had promised you'd leave that name alone.
But the truth is, I mean, there's, okay. It's like telling a pastor, talk about Jesus, don't talk about the devil. somewhere, somehow, the devil has to work.
Carry on. Fair enough.
And the example is intended. Yes. So somewhere you have to speak about the devil, even if you want to talk about Jesus. So, the carelessness with which this country has been run, and the continued carelessness, and now to the point of where we cannot finance that road. First of all, it is very, very expensive. $7 million on average lost for every kilometer for that Entebbe Expressway. All that is, of course, eaten. And so many things which amaze me.
But there's also the argument, to be fair, that Ugandans who want these roads also want their land to be paid astronomically. And I'll tell you, I think it's a very selfish nature of human beings. If Kasumba knows that there's a road going my direction, and it might go through my land, I want all my problems to be solved by that road.
If it is,
that's also true. There's also that too.
There's that, but the problem is...
Is it because we no longer feel for our nation?
No, of course that there's that, but if the problem is, if it was Kasumba, it would be okay. But if a plan for a road is discussed at very high levels, and somebody knows there's going to be a road passing here,
okay, and
somebody from a certain family comes and buys the land from Kasumba at a very cheap rate, and then goes and charges an arm and a leg because they had they were privy to information, and they are the only ones getting the money. That's where the problem comes.
So should we have compulsory acquisition of land?
That's even what happened with the pipeline. All the land where the pipeline is passing has been bought by the same people, the same thieves. Okay? Now, if it was village people who happen to have a piece of land and they are passing a pipeline here, being compensated, I would have no problem with that.
Okay.
But it is the same thieves who know, because they are privy to certain information, to go and then buy that land, and sometimes even force those people out of that land without paying them a coin.
So you don't want to borrow more? Debt burden we're talking.
We cannot not borrow as the way we are right now.
Okay.
But we have to have a more responsible fiscal policy.
Okay.
We have to be, we have to be more frugal in our expenditure. We spend too much money on regime prolongation. The cost of not having democracy is very high. Okay? When democracy comes, we shall reduce all this money, because we are paying 10.2 trillion shillings in wages. How is that even possible? That's a quarter of the entire budget.
And yet government is not the biggest employer.
Well, it is not the biggest employer, but then the private sector is very thin like this thin. So we have to expand the private sector.
Okay.
We have to shrink the public sector. We have to be a bit more responsible in our spending. But more importantly,
close some districts.
That is going to be a very deep political issue, by the way. But we can have different...
Because there's also demand for them. Because now we've moved from districts. They've stopped demanding districts. They are demanding cities.
They are demanding cities. And we have cities all over the place which have not a single economic activity. But there is a city full of dust and everything. Not a single economic
activity. Because we can't give any more districts, can we? We can't give any more districts, so we've started to give cities.
You never say never with these people. But we can get up.
You will be president.
No, if I'm president, of course. But now,
so do you go more districts or more cities, or you suspend?
We cannot have more districts. We have to have more realistic administrative units. Actually, I was having a think tank with some people and saying, how do we send this and have a more realistic administrative unit? And people were saying we have regions, okay? You know the way it used to be in Amin's regime, the governor of the central, whatever, province. He used to call them provinces,
yes,
where there is a governor and is in charge of a region. So we get a region and put a governor, and we keep the district, because the districts people...
It's very clear you don't want to have all power, because if you're saying you're going to split Uganda into provinces, regions or provinces or whatever, we can find a name for them. You have to give these people power.
I don't mind sharing the power. The important thing is that those people have to account for what they are doing. And even if you give somebody and you make him a governor of a province, it has to come with a budget. It has to come with responsibilities to make roads and all utilities and make sure all those things are working. And that's okay with us. The issue is, as long as they are appointed, the governors are appointed, and they have key performance indicators.
Appointed, elected?
Governors will be appointed because they have to be administrative, and we have to make sure they are doing what they are supposed to do. So if your region is lagging behind compared to what its potential is, then you put aside. We put somebody there who is going to make people rich in that place.
So now that would require constitutional amendment.
That way you don't go into the politically, muddy waters of reducing districts, because that's a very political issue. But you can still have administrative units that are more realistic than the 146 or 47 districts.
Let's get to education, and I'm very passionate about that. Joseph Kabuleta yakale bimfuna alunda Kabuleta ngaleta amba wakiro wenkanya alunda Kabuleta ngaleta